A seance gone awry. Welcome back, everybody. This one is an original by Andre Michael Pietroschek. The story begins. It was about the time when spiritualism was all the craze in England, and no party was reckoned complete without a spirit-rapping seance, celebrity included amongst the other entertainments. One night, I was invited to the house of a friend who was a great believer in otherworldly manifestations from the unseen, spiritist world and had asked me to partake, claiming to have made the acquaintance of a noteworthy and well-known trans medium, a sexy as well as physically gifted girl whom you will be sure to like, I know. He said as he asked me. I did not blindly believe in the return of spirits, yet gracious to have found some cost-free entertainment and consented to attend at the appointed hour. At that time, I had just returned from a secret escapade into foreign lands and forbidden pleasures, so that I found myself in a very delicate state of health, easily impressed by outward influences and agitated to a most extraordinary extent. At the hour appointed, I found myself at my friend's house and was then introduced to the guests who had assembled to witness the phenomena. Some were strangers like me to the rules of the table. Others, who were adepts, took their places at once in the order in which they had informal meetings attended, supposedly shielding us from the death energy of the spectacle soon unleashed. The trans medium had not yet arrived, and while waiting for her coming, we sat a day down and opened the seance with a chant. We had just recited the second part when the door opened and the medium walked in and took her place on a vacant seat by my side, joining in with the others in the last verse, after which we all sat motionless with our hands resting upon the table, waiting upon the first manifestation of the other world, the emissary. Now, although I thought all this performance very ridiculous, there was something in the silence and the dim light, for the gas had been turned low down, and the room seemed filled with shadows, something about the fragile figure at my side, with her drooping head, which filled me with a curious sense of fear and icy horrors, such as I had never felt before. I am not by nature imaginative or inclined to superstition, but from the moment that young lady had entered the room, I felt as if a hand had been laid upon my heart, a cold, iron hand that was compressing it and causing it to stop frothing. My sense of hearing also had grown more acute and sensitive, so that the ticking of the watch in my breast pocket sounded like military drums, and the measured breathing of those about me as loud and nerve-disturbing as the snorting of a bear or any similar large zoo animal. Only when I turned to look upon the trans medium did I become enticed. Then it seemed as if a cold air wave had passed through my brain, subduing for the time being those awful sounds. "She is possessed," whispered my host on the other side of me. "Wait, and she will speak presently and tell us whom we have got beside us." As we sat a day and waited, the table moved several times under our hands, while locking at intervals took place in the table and all around the room, a weirdest and blood-curdling yet ridiculous performance which made me feel half inclined to run out with fear and half inclined to sit still and laugh. On the whole, I think, however, that horror had the more complete possession of me. Presently, She raised her head and laid her hands upon mine, beginning to speak in a strange, monotonous, faraway voice. This is my first visit since I passed from Earth life, and you have called me here. I shivered as her hand touched mine, but had not the strength to withdraw it from her light, soft grasp. I am what you would call a lost soul. That is, I am in the lowest sphere. Last week, I was in the body, but met my death down in Whitechapel. I was what you may call a forlorn soul, as I was abandoned enough by God. Shall I tell you how it happened? The medium's eyes were closed, and whether it was my distorted imagination or not, she appeared to have grown older and decidedly debauched looking since she sat a day down, or rather, as if a light, a filmy mask of black, a filmy mask of degrading and soddening vice had replaced the former delicate features. No one spoke, and the trance medium continued. I had been out all day and without any luck or food, so that I was dragging my wearied body along through the slush and mud, for it had been wet all day, and I was drenched to the skin and miserable 10,000 times more wretched than I am now, for the earth is a far worse hell for such as I'd, and I hell here. I had danced at several passer-bys as I went along that night, but none of them spoke to me, for work had been scarce all this winter, and I suppose I did not look so tempting as I have been. Only once a man answered me, a dark-faced, middle-sized man, with a soft voice, and much better dressed than my usual companions. He asked me where I was going, and then left me putting a sovereign into my hand, for which I thanked him. Being just in time for the last public house, I hurried up, but on going to the bar and looking at my hand, I found it to be a curious foreign sovereign, without nationally common figures on it, which the landlord would not take. So I went out again to the dark fog and ran without my drink after all. There was no use going any further that night. I turned up at the court where my lodgings were intended to go home and fall asleep, since I could get no food when I felt something touch me softly from behind, as if someone had a court hold of my shoulder. Then I stopped and turned round to see who it was. It was gone, and with no one near me, nothing but fog and the half-light from the court lamp. Yet I felt as if something had got hold of me, though I could not see what it was that it was gathering about me. I tried to shout out, but could not, as this unseen grasp closed upon my throat and choked me, and then I fell down and for a moment forgot everything. The next moment I woke up outside my own poor mutilated body, and stood watching the devilish woke going on as you see it now. Yes, I saw it all as the medium ceased speaking, a mangled corpse lying on a muddy pavement, and a demonic dark, pock-marked face bending over it, with the lean claws outspread, and the dense fog inside of a body, like the half-formed incarnation of muscles. That is what did it, and you will know it again. She said, I have come for you to find it. Is he an Englishman? I gasped as the vision faded away and the room once more became definite. It is neither man nor woman, but it lives as I do. It is with me now and maybe with you tonight, still. If you have me instead of it, I can keep it back, only you must wish for me with all your might. The seance was becoming too horrifying now, and by general consent our host turned up the gas lamp, and then I saw for the first time the medium, Now relieved from her evil possession, a beautiful girl of about 19, would I think the most glorious green eyes I had ever before looked into. "Do you believe what you have been speaking about?" I asked her while we were sitting and talking together. "What was that? About the murdered woman?" "I don't know anything at all. Only that I have been sitting at the table. I never know what my chances are." Was she speaking the truth? Her dark eyes looked true, so I could not doubt her. That night when I went to my lodgings, I must confess that it was some time before I could make up my mind to go to bed. I was decidedly upset and nervous, and wished that I had never gone to this spirited meeting, making a mental bow as I threw off my clothes and hastily got into bed, that it was the last unholy gathering I would ever attend. For the first time in my life, I could not put out the gas lamp. I felt as if the room was filled with ghosts, as if this pair of ghastly specters, the murderer and his victim, had accompanied me home, and were at that moment disputing the possession of me. So instead, I pulled the bedclothes over my head, it being a cold night, and went that fashion off to sleep. 12 o'clock, and the anniversary of the day that Christ was born. Yes, I heard it striking from the street spire, and counted the strokes slowly tolled out, listening to the echoes from other steeples. After this one had ceased, as I lay awake in that gas-lit room, feeling as if I was not alone this Christmas morn. Thus, while I was trying to think what had made me wake so suddenly, I seemed to hear a far-off echo cry, "Come to me." At the same time, the bedclothes were slowly pulled from the bed and left in a confused mass on the floor. "Is the Duke Shelley?" I cried, remembering the spirit's seance and the name by which the spirit had announced herself when she took possession. 3 distinct knocks resounded on the bedpost at my ear, the signal for yes. "Can you speak of me?" "Yes," an echo rather than a voice replied, while I felt my nerves tingling, yet strove to keep my composure. "Can I see you?" "No." "Feel you?" Instantly, the feeling of a light cold hand touched my brow and passed over my face. "In God's name, what do you want?" "To save the girl," I said, "to say spoke through earlier tonight. It is after her and will kill her if you do not come quickly." In an instant, I was out of bed, tumbling my clothes on the way, horrified through it all, yet feeling as if Shelley were helping me to dress. There was a Templar dagger on my table which I had brought from Ceylon, an old dagger which I had brought for its antiquity and design, and this I snatched up as I left the room, with that light unseen hand leading me out of the house and along the deserted snow-covered streets. I did not know where the trans medium lived, but I followed where that light grasp led me through the wild, blinding snowdrift, round corners and through shortcuts, with my head down and the flakes falling thickly about me, until at last I arrived at a silent square and in front of a house which by some instinct I knew that I must enter. Over by the other side of the street, I saw a man standing to look up to a dimly lit window, but I could not see him very distinctly, and I did not pay much attention to him at the time. Instead, I rushed up to the front steps into the house, but that unseen hand still pulled me forward. How that door opened, or if it did open, I could not say. I only know that I got in, as we get into places in a dream, and up the inner stairs I passed into a bedroom where the light was burning dimly. It was her bedroom, and she was struggling in the thug-like grasp of those same demon claws, a clear scene of rape or robbery, and the rest of it drifting away to nothingness. I saw it all at a glance, her half-naked form with the disarranged bedtoes as the uniformed demon of muscles clutched the delicate throat, and then I was at it like a fury with my Templar dagger, slashing crossways at those cruel claws and the evil face. While blood streaks followed the course of blood, my blade inflicted bloody stains until at last it ceased struggling and disappeared like a horrible nightmare. As the half-strangled girl, now secured from that foul onslaught, woke up the house with her screams, while from her releasing hand dropped a strange sovereign, which I took possession of. Thus I left her feeling that my work was done, going downstairs as I had come up without impediment, or even seemingly in the slightest degree, attracting the attention of the other dwellers in the house, who rushed in their nightdresses towards the bedroom from whence the screams were issuing. Into the street again, with that sovereign in one hand and my dagger in the other, I rushed, and then I remembered the man whom I had seen looking up at the window. Was he still there? Yes, but on the ground, in a wet black pool amongst the white snow, as if he had been struck down. I went over to where he lay and looked at him. Was he there? Yes. I turned him around and saw that his throat was slashed and stabbed, and all over his face the same dark palette, pockmarked evil face, and claw-like hands. I saw the dark slashes and stab wounds caused by my Templar dagger, while the soft white snow around him was stained with crimson light. I left the dark white walls, and as I looked, I heard the clock strike 1, while from the distance sounded the chant of the coming waits. Then I turned and fled mindlessly into the dark of the night. But the police were on my heels soon. I dare call it a nightmare in uniforms. These bobbies had the same dark aura and similar dark features as the demon, which I had fought only to discover it was transformed back into a mortal citizen soon thereafter. In the first position, herald of consequences, I now had to experience myself, which spawned a completely different truism unto the media, tales on insane killers like Jack the Ripper. Those little clubs, billy clubs, not batons, often look silly to the untrained observer, as they are made of leather upon wood when in regular police-issued quality. But these fiends knew how to wield them skillfully, and with malicious grins they knew where to hit to make it hurt extra. The peace of God was gone the moment I had volunteered to kill, and contrary to a real occult adept, I was just a prideful, selfish fool, ill-prepared to meet the dark side of occultism on their own diabolical terms. I died the obvious suspect and scapegoat they could have only wished for. I died because the succubine temptation of that young woman had lured me into an abstract trap of circumstances turning against me. I died for the fire in my pants blinding me to the warning signs of the situation getting hell-bent. The end.